So this week we are still in the muddy, chaotic mess of trying to figure out our game plan. But there are things I can do to start to get ready for the big renovation and start to work on certain areas of this house that I know need help anyway. One of those areas is the room that we have Griffin in right now. It was the area that had the mold in the corner and it's got the water damage. And on the outside of the house, it's the area that the ivy is growing up against. And I can only imagine the damage that's behind all of that overgrowth of ivy. There's some things in that room that I really just don't love. There's some white moldy mildew, and we do have an air purifier running in that room. But still, I think I did a good job of eradicating as much of the mold as possible, but I also think that there are underlying issues, obviously. And I don't love that Griffin's in that room sleeping for at least 8 hours a night. So my goal this week is to start to create a room in this front entry area for Griffin to move into, because this space to me is healthy. There's a lot of space here. I can create a 10 by 10 room for him to be in. And that allows me to move everything out of that room and start to pull things apart a little bit to see what kind of damage is behind the walls and to try to figure out why it's so moldy, mildewy, and probably not the greatest room to be in. I also know that it probably isn't the easiest to understand the layout of this house just by me walking through it and showing you guys the rooms, which is why I just uploaded a new blog to my brand new website that explains, it actually has the floor plan of this house. So you can go check out my new website. My good friend Rob, who is also my web designer, he was actually the one that had a great idea because I am in a new stage of my life. I moved to the West Coast. He was like, you know what? I think you need a revamp of your website. And they did such a good job of my website. So this is not only for you guys to go check out my blog that has the floor plan, but also obviously I want to support a good friend if I can. So Liquid Media, check out my website, but all of this to say there is a blog on my website that has the floor plan of this house so that you can understand when I'm talking about this front door, front entry space, how it connects to the rest of the house and how the octagon connects to the pool room area. And it'll allow you guys to understand this project a little bit more. I'm gonna throw up a couple partition walls. I've kind of already planned it out in my head. It'll be about a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 9 foot room. I'm going to eliminate this fireplace area and get rid of more brick. I've looked on the outside of the house. How this unit is fueled, from what the old homeowners told me, was there was a propane tank in the corner outside. You can see the line running and ending in the corner with no propane tank there. So I think it should be a fairly simple disconnect and removal. You can also see on the outside the chimney stack, whatever you would call it, that has been built to allow this unit to vent has separated from the house. This brick has started to fall off as well. This is an area where spiders, animals, it's just an access point that we don't need. So what I want to do first is build the walls. And then once I've got this area kind of contained to contain the dust and whatever will happen when I start to take this apart, I'm going to start to take out this unit, take out the brick, remove it all, patch up the drywall so there's no more access from the outside, and keep this room as Griffin's nursery for the time being and start to pull apart that far room that seems to be the most damaged. I've also laid out the space so that I know there is a light in this room. There won't be a switch on the inside of the room. Again, temporary. There will also be a couple of plugs in the room. And obviously the door as well. I wouldn't love that there is a door in this room for the kids' bedroom, but this is, again, temporary. It probably seems like a lot, but my number one priority is that we are comfortable throughout this renovation. I've lived through so many renovations and been uncomfortable. I've been there, done that. And I don't want to put my child through that. And if that means we're doing things a little bit backwards, where I build something knowing that I'm going to be taking it down in the future, but it allows us to provide our son with a safe bedroom, while we are working on other areas of this house, I am all for that, all for it. And I have the ability to do so. So I'm not hiring out this work, which would cost a lot of money. I can do this on a Sunday when my son and my fiance are out grocery shopping. And obviously that's not gonna happen that fast, but at least I can do some of the dirty, messy stuff that I need to do. So let's go. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay out the bottom plates, and I'm gonna cut out the baseboard and the crown molding so that I can get my studs flush to the wall. So what I'm doing is I'm laying out my bottom plates of my walls, and that gives me an idea, obviously, of where the walls are going to be built. I'm measuring the width of the hall down towards Griffin's room and keeping it fairly similar. Obviously, again, this is temporary, so it doesn't really matter, but at least that gives me a measurement to go off of. And then from there, so it's about 3 feet. From there, I want to make sure that this corner is also square as possible. And then this gives me an idea of how much space I have in the front entry still, which is still a good amount of space. It is, let's do an approximate, almost 6 feet in this front hall still. So lots of space. It's not like I'm making this too tight. And the reason why I'm also using that measurement is because we have a skylight to contend with, and I need my wall to land on the far side of the skylight, which makes the front entry still really nice and light and seem really open. So for the most part, it works out really well. You've got a little hallway here, turn around the corner into the main living space, the octagon. So I'm gonna get my oscillating tool and start to cut out the baseboard and the crown molding. This oscillating tool might be my favorite tool I have, because this tool has gotten me out of so many predicaments, and it just makes things easy. So I need to flush cut the baseboard where I want this 2x4 to sit flush to the wall. And this is 150% the tool for that, because I can obviously move the 2x4. I can go right up to the flooring with the blade and cut a straight line without essentially affecting any other area. It's just a very accurate, very easy to use. I call it my rescue tool too, because there's just so many times that I've been like, oh, I gotta use my oscillating tool for that. So yeah, great investment if you're looking for a tool to give someone that doesn't have one already. Safety first. Now that I have the location of my stud and where I cut out the baseboard, these laser levels are incredible, and I essentially just set it up to where I want to cut out the crown molding. That is a level line from top to bottom, so no questions there. And now I have my line to go to for cutting out the crown. Now I just need to find a step stool. Okay, now that I've got those cut out, I'm gonna Throw a couple screws in the bottom plates. I think it's time to put my tool belt on. Don't need too many, because again, it's gonna be almost like a pressure fit wall. 3 screws. And where's my pencil? I'm actually going to circle them for when I take things out. This is where my walls meet. About 90-ish, yeah. So it's just a little less than 10 feet. So that's where I'm gonna cut. So that is my offcut. And I've got my saw set up outside, just out the sliding door to keep the dust down. So I'll take this outside, make a cut, and then I've got my bottom plate set. And from there, it gets pretty easy because I'm just going off of the bottom plate to frame the walls. And I am framing the walls very simply. 6 screws, and knowing that we will be pulling up this floor as well eventually. I have built pressure fit walls before where I knew that wall would be removed and didn't want to affect the flooring. That's not the case here, so might as well throw a couple screws in to make it easier on myself. Okay, now, this is where it gets, okay. Now this is where it gets a little tricky, I suppose, because I'm not building these walls and then standing them. I'm building them in place. I do have extendable rods that kind of help me. They call them a dead man. So you've got essentially just like a piece of lumber or something stuck into the other end of the wall when you're trying to put up a top plate. I'm gonna go grab that extendable rod. Okay, now I can start to get ready for my top plate. I know where the stud will go, and I also know the length of it because the top plate's 1.5 inches. So whatever my measurement is to the ceiling, subtract 1.5 inches, maybe a little bit less, so that I can kind of pressure fit this in so the measurement is tight, if that makes sense. 94? 93 7/8. 93 7/8 total. So we'll cut one 93 7/8 minus 1.5 inches. That'll give me my first stud. I can put that in place, and that'll act as a support for the end of my top plate so that I can install my top plate with just me. Set my laser up to the bottom plate. This is an important level because that's showing me where my stud needs to go. Screws into the bottom plate, nothing else. If this was permanent, it's actually code to frame with nails, not screws. But because I want to take this apart easily, screws are the best option. Easy to install, a little bit slower than nails, but easy to remove as well. And all of these studs will be reused in the framing of whatever renovation we do anyway, so nothing is going to waste here. Now, because I've got my laser set to the bottom plate, it's transferred the line up to the ceiling. I've got my farthest stud installed that I can slip my top plate into. Now I can climb up onto a step stool here. My extendable posts available. Let's see here. Let's see this. There we go. So we'll get this one almost set. Yeah, should be about that I can put into place, because I'm gonna fasten a screw into the ceiling, but until I get some studs into place, I also don't want to fasten too many screws into the ceiling. This is going to be a pressure fit system, so I'm going to use this extendable post to hold my top plate in place. All very tricky, keyword tricky when you're doing it by yourself, but also fun to figure out how to do it and make it work. Oh, this is a heavy one. Ah, it's been outside. Okay. Couple hours later, created a jail cell. It really is satisfying at the end of the day when you see something tangible in front of you that your own hands have built. I love having an idea and knowing that I have the skill sets to be able to bring that idea to life. And I can't wait to see these walls finished and move Griffin into his new room. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I hope you have a great week. See you next time.